It's all fucking connected. It's a very flimsy system of pseudo or false morality. Is anybody in here gay? And that's all good and well. You see, here's the thing. No matter what your morality is, it's still a secular society. So even if gay marriage is against my own personal beliefs, I can't necessarily believe a government that would say we don't want to do that for moral purposes. Not while you fucking bombing Iraq like that, or sending motherfuckers to Afghanistan like that. I mean, you can't be hitting me with all this dubious ass morality.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to the second episode of my mini podcast series that I'm putting out on YouTube. This one is titled Black Lives Kinda Matter. It's a series where I talk about, where I share my opinions on certain things that I don't see a lot of people have on social media, mainly because the majority of people I follow on social media, particularly Instagram, are not that smart. So the reason why I bring up this topic and the reason why I say Black Lives Kinda Matter is because I have, in my entire life, never seen the black community so disrespected before in my life, just based off of opinions and shared ideas. You know, we can go back, we can talk about what happened with, you know, them sicking dogs on people and the fire department spraying hoses on black people. Yeah, that was obviously horrendous. But in terms of the age that we're living in now, with, you know, big tech companies psychologically toying with you, spiritually, you know, throwing you out of balance, the way that they have usurped people's ability to think for themselves and create sheep, zombie-like sheep who repeat the same thing over and over again is astounding. And now it's coming to this. A lot of people think that I'm a heavy, hardcore Trump supporter. Now the reason why they think this is because they are, once again, not that smart. They think that I'm a Trump supporter when really, I mean, I've been accused of being a Trump supporter by a friend of mine, you know, and I was like, well, I'm not really a Trump supporter. I'm really just using common sense. And the reason why a lot of the times you see me defending him is because I am very against people who manipulate the emotions of my people, black community, and pointing and telling us to be angry at the wrong things or the wrong people or mad at something for the wrong reasons. So that's really what the main point of it is Black Lives Kinda Matter, because the sheer, I think the black community is actually very hypocritical and very, it lacks self-awareness at times, especially on social media, because their voices are amplified and they have a lot of followers. A lot of celebrities with huge followings just repeat the same ignorant, unfounded messages. And I'm actually going to bring up a couple of examples right now. I'm thinking about playing my Dave Chappelle clip in the beginning, sort of like, like how, rap albums do a skit before a song and then they go into it. That's kind of what I'm going to go do right now. Either that, we're going to play it either in the middle or at the end, but I'm bringing up that Dave Chappelle clip. Okay, so what Dave Chappelle said, we're going to backtrack and we're going to go to his special 881, I believe that was the name of it. Dave Chappelle 88 or something. It was, it was 846. Yes, it was Dave Chappelle 846. Now, in light of everything that was going on with the riots and the protests, Dave Chappelle, the one and only, came out and discussed everything that he was talking about. But it really goes into how the lack of self-awareness. In the middle of the special, if you really catch what he says, he goes, I was thinking about, I was living in Staten Island for a little bit. And I was thinking to myself, well, I got to get my kids out of this place. Staten Island is a horrible place. Fuck everyone from Staten Island except the Wu-Tang Clan. And my immediate thought is Dave Chappelle is so smart. Okay, he is built up to be this godlike person who can nuance every argument. He has the perfect argument to where he can address both sides and all that stuff. But it really goes into just the lack of self-awareness, because you would think if we're having a conversation, no, Dave, if we're having a conversation about the people who contributed to making Staten Island a dangerous place, wouldn't suspect number one be the group of people who not only sold drugs and killed people but rapped about it on songs? It's the same thing. Whenever people go Black Lives Matter, I'm like, okay, well, which ones are you talking about? Which ones are you talking about? Because Dave, he said that in this one, right? And then in the clip, this is why I was very disappointed with the Chappelle special 846, is because he was smart enough to call out the hypocrisy in the government when they opposed gay marriage, and their argument was, okay, well, we're against gay marriage because we can't, because of moral issues. Okay, for a very moral reason, we can't side with gay marriage. We don't support it. And then he goes, okay, well, you can't give me that morality while you're out here bombing countries and stealing their oil. It's very ridiculous and hypocritical morality. So how is he smart enough to comprehend that, but not smart enough, or at the very least conscious enough? Yeah. Now I'm not even going to use the word smart, because then that's very condescending. I'm assuming he's dumb in any way, shape, or form. But the consciousness, and I see black people following this problem so many times. They go, they say Black Lives Matter, but then they see a black guy get killed by another black guy, and then they don't snitch. So there's nothing more disrespectfully hypocritical than holding black life to this standard, to put this much value on black life whenever one is taken by the cops, and then to turn around and not do anything when a black person kills another black person. Now, I get it. This sounds like a very, well, what about quote-unquote black-on-black crime argument, but it's brought up because it's simply effective. It really is. So all Black Lives Matter 100%. You're putting this much value on black life. But I mean, the people who kicked the BLM and Antifa out of Chicago were absolutely right. He was like, the only time I see you motherfuckers showing up is when a black guy gets killed by the police. You're never around when black people kill other black people. We've been dealing with gun violence for years now, and now that in all time, the crime went up. I've never that was the most interesting thing I saw was that they said that the crime rate in Chicago is the highest, gun violence is the highest it has ever been since the 60s. Do you have any idea how, you realize that was back then when motherfuckers was walking around with Tommy guns, right? Those are like actual assault rifles. So it was very shocking to me, and it really goes into, I understand a lot of the times, Candace Owens, she gets things wrong, she does manipulate statistics, but a lot of the times, a lot of the things she says, you can't tell me she's not smart, and you can't tell me a lot of the things that she says isn't founded, that it's not accurate in a certain sense. So when she goes, or when other black people go, okay, well, black people are very, they're not really, they have a problem with, being self-aware of the damage that it is doing to itself. The same way, to repeat a point that the great young Pharaoh Atten has. I recommend subscribing to his channel. He's very smart. He's an amazing person. He has an entire video where he explains how the black community has a very abusive relationship with itself. So once again, that black lives kind of matter. Dave Chappelle can point out how the government will bomb a country, steal its oil, and then say, well, we don't support gay marriage for moral reasons, for morally binding religious reasons. And then he'll go, okay, well, Staten Island is a horrible place. I got to get my kids out here. This is not a place for anyone to live. Fuck everyone from Staten Island except the Wu-Tang Clan, the very people who contributed to making Staten Island a dangerous place. It's so difficult for black people to hold other black people accountable for anything. It's something else I've noticed, with all this happening right now is, who was it? The Baby, who did a BET performance where he did like a rework of his song Rockstar, and then he did it from a quote unquote George Floyd police brutality perspective, and it was, I sat there and I stared at it for a good minute just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. The bars that this motherfucker comes with when he talks about killing people, it's healthy to assume we can go, you're not you're not wrong to assume that he's mainly talking about black people when he says he's going to kill a nigga in every single song that he has. We can go to the Rockstar song, and here's a literal lyric. I brought up lyrics from all of the, because a lot of these celebrities will literally go and say Black Lives Matter right after they rap about killing a nigga. So here we go. So in the song he goes, I'm ready to air it out on all these niggas. I can see him running. And he has so many more lyrics just like that. Another thing I noticed too is that, you know, they like, I've noticed a lot of black rappers love you know, hurting mothers. That's another thing too I've noticed. So here's another lyric from the Rod Wave song, The Last Sad Song. I would tie up a nigga mama. Rod Wave, bars. DMX, Who We Be, the funerals, the wakes, the churches, the coffins, the heartbroken mothers. It happens too often. This is what's his name? West Side Gun and Dr. Birds. Shoot your mama house just for half a bickin'. And then there's so many other bars. And then Conway the Machine. That was very disrespectful too. Where Conway the Machine was like, I can't think of another song right now, but it's literally like, he's my shooter is gonna air a clip out at where your mom's living. There's so many bars that people have in terms of like hurting mothers or talking about a nigga's mom and stuff like that too. And it really goes into, you know, the pain that a lot of black women are caused by the black men in our community. That's another thing too. That you know, that happens on Twitter and shit. And that's horrible. But then Conway the Machine is one of my favorite rappers. Everybody knows, you know, my love for Griselda and stuff like that too. And in no way, shape, or form am I saying that these people should that I'm advocating for them to go to jail. I think they should, simply just for sheer hypocrisy. I'm fine with you murdering and selling drugs and all that shit, but there's not that much of a difference between the cops who get paid to kill black people, which they do 100%. Because there's always money. You know, the racism is just a plus. I mean, the money is just a plus, but they are 100% racist. They do get paid to kill black people, right? And then they also get paid to flood our communities with drugs and stuff. But I mean, you're kind of basically doing the same exact thing. You traffic in you traffic in, you know, narcotics, and then you kill black people for you know, territory. You're doing the same exact thing. So there's not, I mean, the hypocrisy is ridiculous. And then Conway the Machine comes out with a song called, I believe, Frontlines, where he talks about, you know, police brutality and George Floyd and shit like that. And then he literally talks about how I would, if it happened to my son, I would go and shoot up a police station. So, I mean, I would like for comedians to stop telling, if you're Caucasian, you're a comedian, I would like for you to stop going on Instagram and sharing other posts about how to interact with black people, okay? You're a comedian. You are notorious for being the most self-obsessed, neurotic, mentally ill, self-deprecating breed of artist. The last person anyone should take advice on how to interact with anyone is a motherfucking comedian, let alone anyone who lives in Los Angeles, if we're really being honest. This is really just, you know, what I wanted to say. I mean, I'm kind of sick of everything. I really want it to stop. I want everyone to stop pretending that they're not just a little bit racist. It's really all about a lot of what you guys call, here's an unpopular opinion, a lot of what you guys call racism is pattern recognition. You notice a specific pattern about a specific group of people. And then I mean, it's really, you're telling people what patterns they can and can't recognize based on their survival. You're telling them what they can and can't recognize when it comes to certain groups of people. It's okay for women to recognize a pattern that they have been attacked mainly by men and that they are absolutely right in their suspicion. But it's not okay for me to recognize that these rappers all look and act a certain way and they talk about a certain thing. So if I see a motherfucker that looks exactly like that motherfucker, whether I'm white, black, Hispanic, whatever the fuck, if I'm not at the very least a little bit suspicious, if I'm not gonna cross the street, I don't give a fuck, even if I know you. But it doesn't make you me a supremacist. Nor do I think it makes you a supremacist. I think it makes you a survivor. I think that means you want to live. So I mean, it's just, you know, I'm basically rambling right now. I'm just kind of going off of, this is my second time doing this. You know, I will get better at this, you know, but I just want it all to stop at this point, really. You know, by the way, there's nothing funnier than people still trying to make it seem like Trump supporters are the problem right now. There's nothing funnier than any of that. I mean, the fact, again, once again, I will reiterate my point, the lack of self-awareness. No one, for the most part, in MAGA hats were running around torching car dealerships. So where is this narrative? The fact that the narrative is still repetitive, that Trump supporters are the main ones that we need to be worried about, that they contribute to white supremacy and all that stuff, when people of all races chanting Black Lives Matter have been the ones harassing people, killing people, looting, rioting, burning down stores. Is a helicopter going by? Just 1 second. Yeah, I'm speaking the truth. That's why they're coming after me now. But this idea that Trump supporters are the people that I need to be worrying about, it doesn't really pan out if you use common sense and just walk outside or go on social media and just really look at what's really happening right now. And there's nothing more ironic than people going to these protests wearing Tupac shirts. And I don't even listen to Tupac, and I can just bring up the lyric in his song, Only God Can Judge Me. The perfect, and he was truly, it's true, people, he was very, very smart, very, very perceptive. In the song, he goes, and they say it's the white man that I should fear, but it's my own kind doing all the killing out here. And then a couple more bars later, then he goes, recollect your thoughts, don't get caught up in the mix, because the media is full of dirty tricks. And these are the same people going to the protests with his shirts on with his face on it. And it's like, I mean, even he said it. It's like, okay, yes, I'm not one of these people that I'm not going to acknowledge or mitigate any of the transgressions that Caucasians back in the day and presently to this day still do to systematically cripple black people. But I'm one of those people that believes that everybody is being systematically destroyed or systematically hurt by one thing or another. I genuinely believe that. I believe that any group you can think of right now is somehow being systematically fucked. And how they get you is that somebody rises up and says, hey, this is how your group is suffering. I have money, but I need more money to help fix those problems. All you need to do is give me some money. And then it taps into the lazy American incentive that everybody has to just kind of sit on the couch and just kind of outsource change. It's a very spiritual bystander effect. Bystander effect is when something happens to somebody or something is happening and then a bunch of people are watching and everyone is thinking somebody should do something. That's what everyone is thinking, and that's how everyone just kind of stands in place and nobody ever does anything. So it's the same thing on a much larger scale. Hey, here's how your group is suffering. Give me money and I'll fix that problem once I, obtain a higher and higher position, and then it just keeps going like that. So I think that's kind of what's happening at the moment, especially in terms of black people. But I really just need everybody to just kind of to pipe down with the bullshit. There are charts going out. Everyone needs to calm down. There are charts going out on Instagram saying that here's a form of white supremacy, and it says having parents. It literally reads having parents is a form of white supremacy. What? That's just one thought. And then another thought, too. I think I genuinely believe that the Black Lives Matter organization, I believe, is definitely a terrorist organization. And I think that after the election, should Donald Trump win, I hope he does win, that they, as well as the majority of the supporters, need to be brought up on charges. They need to be charged. This is ridiculous. Everything that's happening right now is just kind of, we're kind of done now with everything that's, I mean, I haven't really seen any immediate change. I could be wrong. There does need to be, criminal justice reform. There does need to be a dismantling of private prisons and all that stuff. We get the yada, yada, yada and all that stuff. But, I mean, it doesn't. People, I've gotten into so many Twitter arguments with people with the Black Lives Matter organization. They go, "Oh, I'm on your side." I'm like, "You're not on my side. I would never tell you to go burn down a car dealership because you think I matter. Well, actually, I would, but not simply because I'm black. I would like for you to think that I'm awesome and that you would kill for me. That would be nice. I would like for you to do that, but me specifically, not for all black people, to focus that energy on you telling the world how great I am. That would be better. But in terms of like our entire race, absolutely not. Because when you burn down that car dealership, you're not just burning it down for me because I'm black. You're burning it down for other black people who are also deplorable individuals. Jacob Blake, for example, when the WNBA all kneeled and wore the T-shirts with the bullet holes in his back. And I had a tweet about that, and for 23 followers, it was the biggest tweet I've had thus far. And it goes, everybody wants rapists to die until Jacob Blake. And so many people fought me on it. And I mean, it really, that argument is ironclad. The statement stands for itself. Everybody wants rapists to die. Everybody wants rapists to be castrated. They want them to be paralyzed. They want them to be severely beaten until Jacob Blake showed up. And that was the whole sentence. That was it. And then these pussy ass motherfuckers on Instagram tried to like subtweet me and subpost me and be like, oh yeah, well they didn't say it to me directly because they know they would get murdered in an argument. Niggas on Instagram know exactly how I give it up. They know exactly how I get down. They know I show receipts. They know I back up everything I say with receipts, which is what I do in these videos. Which is what I do with these audio on this podcast, and then I post it on YouTube, and I have screenshots of everything that I'm talking about. Jacob Blake, they had a warrant out for his arrest. Now, we want to talk about what's offensive to women in terms of, rape jokes or misogyny or patriarchy, which doesn't exist. I'll get into that later. Or mansplaining or toxic masculinity, which are all sexist terms and don't really mean anything. We'll get into that later as well in another episode. We want to talk about all these things that are systematically affecting women. You want to know what's really systematically affecting women? Being a woman and not knowing the law. Not knowing the law is and not passing on that information to other women so that they can protect themselves or they can seek justice for themselves confidently. That's very disrespectful to women. You realize they got a warrant out for his arrest. A lot of people don't know how the law works. You realize in order to get a warrant out for someone's arrest, they need a substantial amount of evidence to prove that you either did the crime or you were somehow involved. They got a warrant out for Jacob Blake's arrest. That means that a cop did an investigation. They gathered as much evidence as possible, and this is how it usually goes. They bring all that evidence in front of a judge. They bring it all in front of a judge, and the judge signs off on a warrant. They say, okay, well, based off of the amount of information and the evidence that you've given me, I think this is enough to hold that motherfucker long enough until trial. They signed off on the warrant. They went to Jacob Blake's house, and then hear that then that happens. So they say, okay, well, Black Lives Matter. And then, well, which ones are you talking about exactly? Because this black life just raped or molested a woman, and then you, I mean, this is the most. The simulation is glitching, as they say on fucking Twitter. Something is wrong here. Something off is happening right now. And in the name of Black Lives Matter, you telling me that you care that I'm being systematically affected by white supremacy, you have an odd way of showing me that. You have a very odd way of telling me that you care about my life when you say all these things, when you go out and you say, well, Black Lives Matter, and then you're going to go out and then Jacob Blake happens, and then you're sending him a check. Then you started a GoFundMe for him. Because women talk all the time about how, we don't convict that many rapists and all that stuff, and that, so many women get raped and they don't say anything about it, or they do say something about it and then nothing happens because we live in this society. And it's like, sure, you're probably right about a lot of those things, which makes this whole Jacob Blake situation that much worse. You mean the one time we actually can put a rapist in jail, the one time we actually get a warrant out for somebody's arrest, and then he gets shot, the first thing you do is you send him money? That's the first thing you do? He has a GoFundMe out now? And now he's paralyzed from the waist down. That's like ideal karmatic justice for any rapist when you really think about it. Now I should preface all of this by allegedly, because I'm not too up to date exactly on what's happening, but allegedly, I mean, when you get a warrant, it's fucking over. When you get a warrant, it's over pretty much at that point. And, I mean, unless you can get a lawyer to speak your case, which, by the way, you more than likely will have after all of this. But I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, that's kind of most of what I wanted to say was just that, I mean, Black Lives, they only kind of matter to a degree. Very hypocritical people. Very, 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 once again, disrespectful. And here's a short story. There's a female, I'm not gonna give out her name because we're friends, but there was a female comedian I was talking to. This was maybe half a year ago, before all this happened, before COVID and everything. And we were at a comedy club, and there was a black woman on stage. She was a comedian, and she was telling a joke, and she was talking about how, men have it easier, and she was talking about Harvey Weinstein and how he was accused by multiple women, and he still wasn't in jail. Once again, women not knowing the law, very disrespectful, actually very much more disrespectful, because it's like, listen, if you really believe that all it takes is an accusation to put someone in jail, then we are in serious trouble. But, that's besides the point. So she goes in and she talks about how all of the, right, and how men have it hard. How women have it hard and men don't, and all that stuff, right? So the female comedian who I'm friends with, she was sitting right next to me, and I go, that's really not true. Men are scared when they walk home alone at night too. And then she goes, yeah, you wouldn't know about that. She told me I was wrong. He's like, you wouldn't know. She told me, right? Black person. She was like, you wouldn't know. You're not a woman. I have a joke about this. She literally goes, you're not a woman. You wouldn't know. And then I swear to God, I go, okay, well, you realize that, the majority of violent attacks and homicides are committed against men, right? And I swear to God, without even missing a beat, she goes, good. Swear to Christ. This woman, if you go on Instagram right now, she's at every single Black Lives Matter protest. She said this to me. And now she's at these are the people who are at these protests. These are the people. I have, by the way, these stories for days. I'll tell you another story. So, just on to her. Very, very hypocritical. These are the same people. So this is why, by the way, Trump is going to win in a landslide, I believe. I could be wrong. He could lose and whatever, and this point is mute. But, the fact that you look at people not as human beings, but as this Monopoly sort of video game where you start at 50%. So my life is horrible 50% because I'm black, but then it's better 50 more percent. I'm back to zero now because I'm a man. It doesn't make any sense. It's not real. So then here's another story too. I have another comedic friend. He's my friend. He's Caucasian. All these people are Caucasians. I get this shit all the time. These also, again, go on his Instagram. He's at all these protests. He goes, I tell him, this is very recently, I tell him, yeah, I just discovered the song "Kick in the Door" by Biggie. That was last year. Like, I discovered that song. And then he looks at me and he goes, okay, you're fired from being black. It was funny. I'm not one of these comedians who gets offended, but it was funny, it was race. It was very funny. But again, he's going to these protests. And you're telling me that, okay, well, it's wrong to be systematically, subject to racism as a black person. But once again, it goes back into the pattern recognition. You believe that you believe that black people are supposed to do this, think this way, look and talk this way. So that is 100% racist. And then you're going out to these protests and you're saying it matters, right? How you doing? This guy, I'm in my car right now. A guy just pulled up next to me. How you doing? But, okay, another story. I was at an open mic, another white comedian he was hosting. And he goes, so I do my set, and I made a joke about, I guess I was talking about the N-word or whatever. And it didn't work, obviously, because I don't do it anymore, and I don't even really remember it. So I get off stage, and then the host comes on, white guy. And then a moment of silence goes by. This was also very funny. And he goes, is it fucked up to say that Josh is just a white guy who can say the N-word? Very funny. Once again, I'm not a comedian who gets offended by anybody's jokes. I understand that your job, by definition, is to make people laugh, and it was funny. It made me laugh, and it was very funny. But once again, A lot of what you idiots call racism is really just pattern recognition. Now, you can unpack that and say the pattern that you're recognizing is racist. However, you're not doing it from a supremacist point of view. You're doing it as I recognize that this group of people acts and does and thinks a certain way. You think that black people don't talk like I do, which they don't. You're absolutely right. The majority of black people do not talk like this, which is why every time I'm on the phone with somebody, they think I'm either a woman or I'm Caucasian when they meet me in person. I remember one time I was out looking for a house. I was looking for apartments with my roommate, and he's Caucasian, right? And I made the appointment with the guy over the phone. And then we met him in person. He went to my roommate, my Caucasian roommate, and he was like, "Oh, hi, Josh. Pleasure to meet you." And he extended his hand to my friend. And I was like, No. I'm Josh. Another story. Another white host did these are all separate people at separate mics or at separate comedy venues and comedy situations. Another one, I think this is the last one. Another story. I did my set, I got off stage, and then the host, hilarious, he goes, Josh seems like the kind of black guy that needs to ask other black people if he can say the N-word. Now, this is all based on how I talk. Hilarious. Once again, it was funny. I laughed. And by the way, when all these comedians told these jokes, when all these people riffed off of my set and they roasted me, everybody laughed. And the majority of these people are going to these protests and they're sharing these Instagram posts talking about how bad racism is and how you need to, treat black people better. And it's all this hypocritical bullshit. It's all gonna blow over. All of you are gonna stop. I need people to stop pretending that they care more about other situations than they actually do. Because if you keep it consistent, you don't actually care about any of these things. You don't. Not at all. I've gotten this shit my entire life about me being less black because of how I talk, because of me wearing skinny jeans, because of the music that I like and all this shit. I mean, I've dealt with it my entire life, and you mean to tell me because some guy, was viciously murdered for 8 minutes, now things are going to change. Now you're going to change. Really? You're going to do a complete 180 in a day? You really think that's how you really think that's how humans work? It's not. It's as futile as when millennials or the younger kids try to have a debate with their parents or their grandparents. You're literally going against years and years of conditioned prejudice and racism, and you think because you have some stats that you're going to change their mind. You're not. It's dumb. You'd like to think that you can, but you really can't. So there's no way that just because you went to this protest that you're going to stop making black jokes, as funny or as unfunny as they are. You're not going to stop doing any of those things. You're not. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. I want you to just simply be who you are. It doesn't mean that I'm not one of those people that says, okay, well, if you vote for Biden, you're racist. Whatever you agree, because he has policies and all that stuff. You can agree with his policies or whatever. If you want higher taxes, if you want gun reform, whatever, if you're pro-abortion, God bless you. But what I'm saying is, consistently speaking, you can't go out and say that you care about black lives and then vote for Biden or do any of these things and say, okay, well, we're doing it simply because of the systemic racism, while Biden and Kamala represent this racist justice system that you're talking about. So, I mean, people don't keep it consistent. A lot of people, I've had to consistently correct people and tell them that I'm not a diehard Trump supporter. Now, the reason why they think I'm a Trump supporter is because that they're idiots. They have a very difficult time separating certain ideas and associating them with certain people. Okay? They need to paint you as a villain so that their life makes sense. They can't just go, this guy is Josh and he thinks this way. It has to be, okay, he's Josh, and then he says something that I disagree with, and then now he's a Trump supporter. Or something that I want to challenge, and then now he's a Trump supporter. You need to relax on that, too. So really, I mean, that's mainly what I wanted to say. I will return to this topic in other, cases. I'm kind of all over the place because it's only the second time I'm ever doing this. I really genuinely wish I could come out and be one of these people who can just kind of flow through it naturally and stuff and not jump all over the place. But that's just me being, I guess, self-conscious or whatever. But mainly this has just been bugging me for a very, very long time. The people around me, it really begs the question if they're doing this on purpose, if they are simply just pretending, or if they genuinely walk out after they make a tweet, after they post on Instagram, and if they genuinely believe the things that they're saying is true. Because it doesn't make any sense any of these things. The majority of people that I've gotten in arguments on Instagram, I shouldn't even say that. 10 out of 10 times people I've gotten into an argument on Instagram have been wrong, and I've proven them wrong, and they stop responding, or they just completely ignore me, and then they continue to support the causes that they do. And I run into this, and I've actually come to this realization a long time ago, where you've already dug yourself into a grave. You've already shot yourself in the foot by positioning yourself as someone who cares a lot about social issues, and that you're the person that needs to do something about it. You're the person that needs to call attention to this cause with your platform. The second you come out and you say that you're that person, you immediately shoot yourself in the foot, because then you compromise yourself. Because then there are going to be instances where you're going to need to speak out against the people who are on your side. You're going to have to speak out against the people that are standing right next to you, and you're not going to do that. So when it comes to all of these things, for example, Black Lives Matter, there's a reason why these people are not sharing all the black people who have killed Caucasians, or all the Caucasians who have been killed by the cops, is because in order for you to do that, you're going to have to go back on certain things. You're going to have to go back on certain things. You're going to have to lose a lot of followers, perhaps. You're going to lose certain business deals. You're going to lose certain opportunities. You may even get fired in a lot of cases, especially if you're Caucasian. I had this issue when I tweeted it again. The problem with systemic racism is that people on the left don't think. Well, excuse me. The problem with systemic racism is that people on the right don't think it exists, and the people on the left think that it doesn't include Caucasians, and it 100% does. Caucasians are systematically affected by racism all the time. For example, the mute white people button on Instagram. That would have never, literally, Instagram is literally a system, and that is racist. Boom, systemic racism. So yes, Caucasians do experience systemic racism, and I need this idea that they don't to stop. I need this idea. I need people to stop saying, by the way, that anyone who says all lives matter. Can we stop with everyone who says all lives matter is dumb? Or that they are automatically racist, or when they bring up that point that they are trying to draw attention away from we've had enough with the cute little TikTok analogies. We get it. Every analogy you guys have is really just reiterating the same exact point. Oh well, if my building was on fire, and you came over and you were like, well, what about my building? It's completely fine. Or if my kid scraped their knee and we had a Band-Aid and you came over and you were like, well, what about my son's knee and all that shit? We get it. All of you have the same exact goddamn analogy to back up why you keep saying Black Lives Matter. But let's not sit around and pretend that every single person who says all lives matter doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. There's a reason they say that. There's so many Twitter threads that go into the amount of people who were shot and killed by the cops who were any other race than black. You have to make the case that every black person you see who was shot and killed by the cops was specifically killed because of their race. You have to make that case, and a lot of you can't. A lot of you cannot come up to me and be like, okay, well, here's the reason why they killed him, because of the race. I'm not saying that it never happens, but there's definitely a legitimate reason why a lot of people say all lives matter, and we really need to stop, because there's so many people who are killed in worse ways, in very gruesome ways, that aren't black, that nobody gives a fuck about. So you're saying, this isolated incident where this black guy was shot and killed by the cops, for whatever reason, is bad, but this person who was shot and killed by the cops, who is white, who is a woman, who is anything else, and nobody really pays attention to it, it's like, okay, and then people are literally going out and shouting, white lives don't matter. Is that good enough reason? And then what about the Siri thing? There's a Siri feature where you literally say, okay, Black Lives. I'm gonna pull it up right now and just to see if this works. This is my phone, right? So I'm gonna test this out. I saw this on Instagram from somebody I follow, and I couldn't even believe it. So this really goes into why people say all lives matter. Here's another good case. They make a good case. Here it goes. All right, ready? This is Siri once again. Black Lives Matter.
Yes, they absolutely do.
Right now, here's a link to now. There's a link to Black Lives Matter, the website. Right now, I just said Black Lives Matter. Okay. Now here we go. Here's the big one. Here's All Lives Matter. Wait 1 second. Okay. All Lives Matter.
All lives matter is often used in response to the phrase, Black Lives Matter. But it does not represent the same concerns. To learn more about the Black Lives Matter human rights movement, visit blacklivesmatter.com.
Right? Okay, now here we go. Hispanic Lives Matter.
Here's what I found.
Nothing. It's literally just pointing me right back to Black Lives Matter. Okay, ready? Asian Lives Matter.
Here's what I found.
Here's what I found. More articles relating to Black Lives Matter. It ignites activism amongst Asian Americans. How should Asian Americans be better allies to... Yeah, right? Bullshit. Here we go. White Lives Matter.
I found this on the web.
See what I mean? So, I mean, again, when we talk about this, I mean, again, we got to keep it consistent. We got to keep it consistent. If your problem is systemic racism, sure, but then you gotta bring it up. You have to point out and hold other people accountable when they're being systemically racist towards Caucasians. If you bring up police brutality and how that's the child of systemic racism and how it's specifically only hurting black people, you gotta bring it up. The Caucasians who are shot and killed by the police, which they are, it happens all the time. Like the little boy, or rather, simply just the little boy who was executed on his lawn by the black guy. I forgot. I mean, that was a news story for like a couple of days. That you got to keep that consistent. So I want the consistency to stay across the board, and I need people to stop, treating every person who says all lives matter like they're retarded. I understand why they say it. I get it. And if people want to sit around again with the consistency, people are like, well, Black Lives Matter is really just a statement that you shouldn't disagree with, right? I mean, you can separate the movement from the statement. It's nothing that okay, well then there you go then. So literally, yeah, Black Lives Matter, sure, all lives matter. Yeah. I get it. This is going on a little too long. We're at 41 minutes right now. I'm going to wrap it up. But, I mean, I need it to stop. I need everyone to stop pretending that they care more about certain things than they actually do. Because I can just sit back and expose so many people for the dumb racist shit that they've done or said. But I'm not going to do that because I'm not, an op. But for the most part, yeah. And I think that would be the end of this. But thank you for listening. Thank you for listening this long. But yeah, this is pretty much it. I just need it to. I want everything to just kind of go back to normal. But make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment. Follow me on all my social medias at Josh A. Shakespeare on Instagram. On Twitter, Shakespeare Josh. Follow me on Apple Music. I love making playlists, and I do that for fun. I have different playlists for different moods. That would be Shakespeare Josh. I have sketches coming out on this YouTube channel every Monday at 3 p.m. PDT. It's West Coast time. 3 hours behind you if you're on the East. 1 or 2 hours behind you if you're in the middle. So, yeah. And that would be all, actually. So, thank you guys for listening again. Appreciate it. And that will be me signing out now.
Eric Garner was selling loose cigarettes in Staten Island. When my kid was born, my first son, my wife lived in Staten Island. It's an awful place. She knows it. Everyone who's ever been there knows it. Yuck to Staten Island. And my black ass would go there, and I got a lot of fans there and friends there, but it's a very terrible place. Fuck everybody in Staten Island except the Wu-Tang Clan.